Come catch the rhythm, the heartbeat of Jamaica, the sounds that lifts your mood, spurs you into action, or just makes you feel a part of this one love culture of Jamaica, land we love. It's Reggae Month 2022 and it's already off to a fantastic start. Visit Reggae Month JA on Instagram to keep abreast of all the major happenings planned for the period. And please be sure to continue the COVID-19 containment measures of mask wearing, social distancing, sanitizing, and of course, vaccinating. Let's all play our part as Jamaica recovers stronger from the pandemic.
For those of us who do not believe that COVID is real and that it is here, have you been to one of those hospitals where the wards are overflowing with patients who are trying to breathe and talk at the same time, but find it so impossible to do so? Or have you seen someone die in front of you, trying to make the next breath to stay alive? So my fellow Jamaicans and colleagues, whether you believe it or not, COVID is real. So I implore you, social distance. Wash your hands, wear your mask, sanitize. Along with that, we need to keep our immune system nice and healthy, so you drink lots of water, eat your fruits and vegetables. But whether we believe it or not, COVID is here, it is here to stay, it's going to be the new norm. And remember, when you behave irresponsible, you expose all of us. So do the responsible thing.
And now for your JIS News this Monday, February 7, 2022. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has announced that government is moving to allow COVID-19 vaccinated persons to attend certain entertainment events. He says the move already has Cabinet's approval and details will be provided over the next week or so.
So listen out for that, because I know a lot of you want to go to Boys Tramps and Gibson Relays and the maybe annual convention somewhere, I don't know. I'm not going to second guess what the team will come up with. But we will provide, I believe, and rightly so, an opportunity to begin to expand as we gradually move back to the normality that all of us would like to enjoy.
Dr. Tufton made the announcement during a recent function to officially open a new field hospital for COVID patients on the grounds of the Savannah Lamar Public Hospital in Westmoreland. Meanwhile, the Health Ministry is strongly urging Jamaicans to get vaccinated and continue observing the protocols of mask wearing, frequent hand washing and social distancing as the country registers increasing COVID-19 related deaths. In a statement released yesterday, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton highlighted that 150 of the 2,694 COVID-related deaths since the start of the pandemic occurred this year. There were 323 deaths in 2020 and 2,221 last year. 98.4% of those who have died were unvaccinated. According to the minister, this clear fact is an indication of the value of vaccination to saving lives. He says Jamaicans must learn from the experiences over the last 2 years, follow the science and take all steps necessary to protect themselves and their families. Still on health, the ministry's public-private partnership PPP for non-communicable diseases program has been expanded with an additional 9 private doctors coming on board. The portfolio minister says this will optimize the care of patients in the public health sector by allowing shorter waiting time and free access to private doctors as well as select services close to home.
What we have found in the pilot is that it is possible to work out an arrangement with private practitioners to give the benefit of time, efficiency of service, more comfortable surroundings, and of course, ultimately to give the care that those patients require.
The program, which was piloted in November 2020, aims to provide comprehensive and efficient care and management of non-COVID patients with diabetes and hypertension.
We are satisfied sufficiently with the efforts and believe that the program should be expanded. And so we have set ourselves a target during the course of this year for some 5,000 Jamaicans to benefit from the services of private practitioners, although they are public patients.
13 private doctors across 5 parishes are currently part of the PPP for Non-Communicable Diseases program. The top Aberdeen community of over 1,600 residents and its environs are now set to benefit significantly from the operation of a new water supply system. Fully funded by the government at a cost of $110 billion, the system was commissioned into service last Thursday. The project was spearheaded by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development through the Rural Water Supply Limited. Portfolio Minister Desmond McKenzie says the project is tangible proof of government's commitment to providing this basic commodity to all Jamaicans.
And that access to water, ladies and gentlemen, is to improve the pursuit of prosperity and livelihood and economic freedom for many communities who lack the basic commodity of water.
The project includes a newly constructed solar hybrid water pumping station, the installation of pipelines and the construction of a water storage tank. Residents must apply to the National Water Commission to secure connection to their homes. Minister McKenzie implored them to pay for the service when they get connected.
It is important, ladies and gentlemen, that I use this platform to say to you, the water is not free. It comes at a cost. Remember, it's your taxpayers' money that help to provide it. But you have an obligation to pay.
Member of Parliament for the area, Delroy Slowly, told the JIS News that to encourage residents to sign up for their supply in short order, the NWC will give the first 50 applicants a 50% discount on their connection fee. And finally, a designated walkway for students has been constructed leading to the Salt Spring Primary School in St. James to ensure safer commuting to and from school for the young ones. The $14 million Safe Passage project falls under Phase 2 of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund JSIF's Integrated Community Development Project. It is being funded by the European Union. Speaking at the recent handing over ceremony, Deputy Superintendent of Police for St. James, Angela McIntosh Gale, says the project could not have come at a more opportune time, especially with road casualties escalating.
The welfare of our children is pivotal to the growth and development of all communities. The outstanding services of this organization must be lauded. JSIF, you have nailed it again. Our children can now traverse a public thoroughfare safer. Children are our future, and when they see that people do care, they will adopt a more caring attitude.
The Safe Passage project includes the rehabilitation and construction of sidewalks, bus bays, guardrails, and road signs. It also involves a comprehensive public education and road safety programs targeting staff, students, and residents. 8 schools benefited under Phase 1, and 4 other institutions are being targeted, namely Anchovy Primary in St. James, Treadlight Primary in Clarendon, Greenwich Town All Age in Kingston, and Augustown Primary in St. Andrew. Students from the nearby Hartfield Basic School will also benefit. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
Getting the first dose is not an excuse not to wear the mask, not to social distance or physical distance, not to sanitize. Getting the first dose is not justification for deciding that you're going to resume the parties, the gatherings beyond the limits that have been established. The journey is to observe the protocols, take the second dose when it is time, and then we will resume some semblance of normalcy once we achieve herd immunity.
When most persons think of music, they often only look at the performance side. But the business of music is a very lucrative one, which rakes in billions annually. As we celebrate Reggae Month this and every February, we take a look at career opportunities in music.
Tones, Ken Booth, Delroy Wilson, Alton Ellis. I mean, you name them, they came through my hands at some stage or another. I took Dennis to England in '74, the first time he toured. He was just about 17.
Junior Lincoln is one of a large and growing group of people who have merged a love for the melodic creation called music with a keen understanding of human behavior and a sharp business mind to make a living.
Some of the best artists in the world we don't know anything about. You can be the greatest artist in the world, and if people don't hear you, how are they going to know? And how are you going to be heard? It takes management. Music management is kind of complex.
But it comes down to one thing: overseeing the business affairs of musicians.
There's two sorts of management of an artist. I mean, the personal manager will look at how they invest their money, how they do all of that sort of thing. The other side now, which is the professional manager of the artist's career.
If you are looking to join this career field, be prepared to handle just about every aspect of an artist's career.
It is not something that you can go to school and learn. It's something you learn over a period of time with experience.
But school can't hurt. In fact, there are schools here in Jamaica and abroad offering degree programs in music business or a straightforward business field that you can merge with your knowledge of the industry. Whether you begin with formal training or not, getting started in this career is tough. One route is to cultivate a relationship with an up-and-coming artist you admire and begin to manage that person, create an effective street team, and have the artist grow. Then there's another option.
You find a lot of big managers today, especially overseas, started with a company, and they would have maybe 2 or 3 artists under their portfolio. So you learn your craft there, but you have this big company behind you that you can rock back at.
Whatever in you use, remember this is not a job that will keep you confined to a desk or any other static location. You go where the business or the artist goes. And this is not a 9-to-5 gig.
No, it's the opposite of a 9-to-5 job because you're on the job all the time.
And it's a job that is in demand, a growth field as some would call it.
What you have to keep in touch with is the change. The changes that has come about in the business and continually doing so.
There are some other intangibles to consider.
Temperament is important. It's cool when you have to be cool. Most of the time you have to be cool, but you have to be firm when you have to be firm. It takes man management.
It means navigating the many moods of artists, plus all the people around them.
I think we all know that people within the arts are a bit sometimes not so easy to deal with, for obvious reasons. Very moody, can be very strong in their thoughts and vision and whatever else. There's got to be trust. There's got to be confidence, a whole lot of confidence in the management opinion and direction of that artist.
The music manager must also understand how to navigate the transition from an unknown artist to someone with a following and further a national or international career.
Once you get there, a very important part is to stay there. And management is very crucial to that because it's not just music anymore. It's music plus.
It's widely known that reggae was born in Jamaica's capital, Kingston, and that birth has led to the capital being named a UNESCO Creative City. But how much of the behind-the-scenes story do you really know?
The music industry has been quite well documented, and to my recollection, it started more of an effort to play music that other people couldn't play than as an industry. So from where it started, for me, it started with sound system owners who wanted to remain exclusive, decided that the best way to do that was to, produce their own stuff. And people saw how important it was. Artists were, coming up. I think it was the birth of an industry. Reggae is the soundtrack of our lives, In other words, it's not like we made an effort to boy, we're gonna like reggae. Reggae is of us, about us, with us, and it has remained true to us as a Jamaican expression. And when I say reggae, I don't make the distinction between fast reggae, slow reggae, ska. I just call Jamaican music reggae. It was very unstructured in the beginning and persisted like that for a number of years until people like Chris Blackwell saw the financial possibilities involved in investing. So I guess it really came to front with the Millie Small, that big hit that he had, and people started to see money. So this could in fact be an industry, and how popular music like ska was, that it gave rise to songs and bands, and people. Jamaica was dancing and people were enjoying themselves, and it probably was a good time in the history of Jamaica. Not everybody can do the twist. It kind of unearthed that creative spirit in Jamaican, and we broke all of the recording rules, but we came up with a product that kind of represented the kind of Jamaican spirit and that indomitable spirit, and it gave a sort of voice or expression to our Africanness. Like everybody growing up in my age, we had two sets of things. I grew up in the golden age of both Jamaican music and the Motown era and the Philadelphia era. And radio played a lot of American music. We were naturally drawn to the best of American music. But you realize that when you got to a party and they started to play the local section of music, because it was talking about things that you were familiar with. You went, and then you were able to see these individuals at stage shows and parties. So it became even more personal.
Standing at the party, watch me now. Ice cream, watch out. Me a chat microphone from me liquor store.
Music is just being constantly made. I don't think we have taken time out to actually figure out how we're going to monetize the creation of all this music. But it is there. It is being consumed in every nook and cranny of Jamaica, every bar, everything, and in households. And then we have this phenomenon of this weekly dance, this nightly dance, music thing on corners. And it has opened up a lot of economic opportunities for people in corners, bars, people selling on the road. And so it is almost self-sustaining by the nature of how it is done. So it is always going to be part of our lifestyle. From the 70s, 80s, 90s, Jamaica celebrated a number of great icons. We talk about the Ernest Smiths, the Pluto Shervintons, the Dennis Browns, the Gregory Isaacs, the Alton Ellis, and then we get into the megastar region, the Jimmy Cliffs and the Peter Tosh, and then the Bob Marleys.
I can't refuse it. Oh, what to be, got to be. Well, I feel like dancing.
Growing up, Dennis Brown was everybody's favorite singer. So when I got an opportunity to work with him, it was like the crowning, day in my life, in my musical history.
My head is anointed and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow all the days of my life.
I was led into professional music through some people that already did music. And the first time I got into a recording studio and became a part of that creative process, I was hooked for life, I realized earlier I didn't have the singing talent like a lot of my friends and compadres, but I realized that my contribution could be through songwriting and later into production and later on into just mentoring young people. Because we have a studio at Grafton and we have a really close association with the Jamaica School of Music, I get a front seat, front row look at a lot of the young talent coming out. And then we have a rehearsal room where we are now, and we have a studio, so I get to see and hear a lot of the young talent and older talent. And here at Grafton we provide a sort of meeting place. I'm really always excited about introducing, new artists to old artists.
It's the time of year when we bring awareness to the importance of a healthy heart. We're also in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Studies show that COVID-19 infection in the body may lead to inflammation that causes damage to the heart muscle, worsen an abnormal heart rhythm, or reduce the heart's ability to pump blood. Get more details in this next feature.
The Heart Foundation of Jamaica, as you all know, is a charitable organization which has been operating in Jamaica for 50 years now. And the Heart Foundation of Jamaica's mission is to reduce the prevalence of cardiovascular disease, that's diseases of the heart and blood vessels, in the Jamaican population. We are particularly interested in COVID-19 at the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, not only because we have been affected by all the economic, financial, social restrictions, but also because COVID-19 seems to have a particular impact in people with heart disease. And even in people who don't have heart disease, there are cardiac complications which develop as a result of COVID-19. One of the mandates of the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, one of the messages that we want to give is this: continue following up your medical conditions, continue screening for heart disease and the risk factors for heart disease.
In terms of the screening, the cost of doing the heart test or the ECG is $2,500. This would include meeting with the registered nurse, having the ECG done. If it's abnormal, it will be read by a cardiologist. It also includes a blood pressure check and the height and the weight check. We would also recommend a blood sugar test, which is $600, a finger prick, you get your result in 3 minutes, and a total cholesterol check, $1,200, which also is the same finger prick to your blood sugar check. So in all, maybe about just over $4,000 would give you a full screening. Based on that, we would then refer you, if necessary, to one of our several cardiologists or nutritionists if you need help with your diet.
As with other infectious diseases, the emphasis is on prevention, early detection and isolation, and also management of cases to prevent persons from having serious illness and death. What we have seen is that persons with comorbidities are 96 more times likely to have moderate and severe illnesses, and are over 100 times more likely than persons without chronic illnesses to die. Many have more than one comorbidities, with a combination of cardiovascular disease and diabetes being quite common. The most common comorbidity and risk factor for death is age over 60 years. Our national surveys have shown that a significant portion of our elderly persons have comorbid illnesses, of which cardiovascular disease is the most common. The Ministry of Health and Wellness have therefore prioritized prevention in these groups to prevent or reduce risk of exposure. Hence, the stay at home, wearing your mask, maintain physical distance. The Disaster Risk Management Act pulls these persons out in having the stay at home order for the elderly persons. And of course, regardless of whether you're at home or in the community, you have to maintain the precautions at all times. It is therefore important that these vulnerable groups ensure that they maximize their ability to fight the disease if they should become exposed. And this includes healthy lifestyle choices, exercise, diet, keeping well hydrated, rest and relaxation, but also care for your chronic illness with regular physical examinations, compliance with medication, and timely and appropriate screening are important in order to ensure that you're able to fight the disease if you should become exposed, and of course that you should seek care early. We have sought to increase persons getting continued care by increasing the use of telemedicine, by increasing the length of prescriptions, and by instituting a home delivery for medications for elderly persons.
That's all the time we have left here on this station. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another Jamaica Magazine program that's sure to inform, educate and entertain. We are at your fingertips 24/7, 365 in cyberspace. There's our website, YouTube or social media pages and a mobile app that's smartphone compatible. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, thanking you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.